Okay, so this topic comes back up a lot, and I see it all over the internet. I usually don't respond, it's usually not a big deal, but I just think it's hilarious how venomously atheists reject the idea that their system of beliefs is considered a religion.
What's hilarious is that people who think that atheists are so very wrong will argue vehemently for us to be considered one of them. Let's do this. Greetings, fellow space travelers. BionicDance here. Today we're dealing with that old chestnut again, whether atheism is a religion. I've dealt with it many times over the years, haven't we all? And my position has changed over that time. I still reject the notion that atheism is a religion, but my reasons for speaking out, why I address the topic at all, have evolved.
Because all they talk about is religion and theism and God.
No, that's all you hear us talk about. Anyone who actually knows me knows that I'm rather a fan of sci-fi. I prefer Star Wars to Star Trek, but is being a Trekkie a religion? What if your obsession is sports? Are the people who paint themselves from head to toe in the colors of their favorite team being religious? Are the people who fight for racial equality following a religion? What about those who are fighting for LGBT rights, fair wages, reproductive freedom, etc.? Are those people God believers? No, they're not. Well, okay, they might be, but that's separate from their activism. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The only reason I argue against religion is because of how many theists are real assholes in the name of their religion. It's self-defense. And I say in the name of because believers love to point at people who had no religion, who committed horrible atrocities, like they're trying to shame us for our lack of belief in gods. But their motivation for those atrocities was not atheism. However, historical events like, say, the Inquisition were directly, knowingly, and deliberately actions taken for religious reasons.
Like, people that are that obsessed with religion are typically religious, right?
That has nothing to do with whether someone's religious. In general, to be religious, you have to believe in at least one God. There are a few exceptions, but the supernatural is always part of it. That pretty much disqualifies atheism from being a religion. And not every atheist speaks out or even cares about religion. This assessment of atheists and atheism is obviously quite inaccurate when examined from a less biased point of view.
Like Aaron Ra, like he probably spends a good 3/4 of his waking hours dealing with religion and talking about religion and, bashing religion.
So, funny thing, the religions he deals with aren't ones he follows, and much of his focus is on the false scientific claims made by theists in their holy texts. Is every person who argues against false scientific claims religious? And if not, how is arguing against theistic scientific claims itself theistic? That makes no sense.
But when someone is that obsessed with religion, it's got to be religious, right? It's a system. It's something they're devoted to, a system of beliefs, them being devoted to atheism, them being devoted to evolution.
Again, that's not fulfilling the requirements necessary to be religious. The believing in God part is missing.
Is atheism a religion? Yes. It's defined as a religion under the term religion in the Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary, the most well-known and the most prominent dictionary for New English learners in the world.
A dictionary. For a complex topic like atheism, you're going to rely on a book that primarily gives one-sentence descriptions. And a dictionary from Oxford University, a historically religious institution. Not exactly an unbiased source for a definition of atheism. What is really required to examine this topic is an encyclopedia. And you don't have to dig too far to find a description of atheism that covers the spectrum from mere absence of belief to a declaration that God does not exist. But it's primarily from religious sources that you'll find atheism being called a religion. The obvious conclusion is not that atheism is a religion, but that theists want it to be one, for whatever reason.
So this fella, Ironclasty, says the Second Circuit Court of Appeals clearly did not identify atheism as religion. The inmate making the appeal had been trying to get a study group for atheism together based on the categorization of religious groups, his First Amendment right, and the court considered that only a credible survey of the inmate population or of the simple expedient of adding atheist, agnostic, or humanist to the preference form and collecting new data can resolve uncertainty
Reading the description of the summary regarding this court case provided by a link in this guy's own video description, while the prison inmate was demanding the right to practice his religious beliefs, he also maintained that atheism is not a religion. Sounds like a bit of a contradiction until you consider that religion being false is at least a belief about religion, and thus arguably a religious belief, but not a religion. This document says quite explicitly, quote, "When the underlying principle has been examined in the crucible of litigation, the court has unambiguously concluded that the individual freedom of conscience protected by the First Amendment embraces the right to select any religious faith or none at all. And so the decision here is not that atheism is a religion, but rather that it is protected by the First Amendment of the Constitution. And this is irrelevant, regardless. The question of whether atheism is a religion does not rest on legal decisions, but rather in philosophical thinking."
Yes, atheism is most certainly a religion, even if you say it's not a religion. Like, just because you say so doesn't mean that it is or is not.
That works both ways. The difference is that his alleged evidence is biased as fuck, not to mention his cherry-picking of that court case. Okay, that's enough of that. One thing before I go. I have had multiple people ask me whether or not that object back there is a gun. It's a microphone stand. All of the guns I own are plastic. Until next time, fellow space travelers, this is BionicDance saying don't run on automatic. Instead, please think.
Attention citizens, failure to contribute will result in suspended oxygen privileges. Attention citizens, failure to contribute will result in suspended oxygen privileges. Attention citizens.
Droids don't pull people's arms out of their sockets when their videos aren't rated. Bionic dances are known to do that.